Hello, my name is Amelia Ram, and I am doing my service learning in the Presidio of Monterey, Child, Youth, and School Services in the Recreation Department. Now, I know that's oddly specific, but the organization that I am working with is the U.S. military, and they do have their very own strict chain of command and branch that everything seems to fit into. Now, in this presentation, I will be talking about where I fit in that chain and the services that we offer to military families and their children. Now, the Presidio de Monterey is the total Army base consisting of military housing, military services such as community outreach programs, the commissary, which deals with groceries and clothes and anything that military families might need, family counseling, and then the child, youth, and school services, which is where the recreational department is set. Now, the headquarters for the CYSS is the Porter Youth Center, and that's where they conduct all the daycare, preschool, and after-school programs. The recreational department conducts themselves in the Porter Youth Center, but then also in the surrounding parks or pretty much any areas of recreation as far as basketball courts or fields. Now, they do provide all their services to military families and also government families, but also to CSUMB students and staff. So if you do want to take advantage of their education, I highly recommend it. They have a very, very good facility and then very good teachers that are very invested in the education of their youth. Now, I was going to take this presentation and talk about the military community here in the Monterey area, but it's very difficult because the military community is not a static community, meaning you don't stay in the community and establish yourself for 10 or 20 years with a job and create a family and then your children grow up in the same community. It's a very mobile community, meaning most of the families don't stay in one spot for 1 or 2 years, and so this makes it very hard to really make connections to other families or to the person at the supermarket or your barber down the street. There isn't a very sort of connectiveness between the military community. Now, they do have shared experiences which do keep them together and they do bond over that, but a lot of the military community is pretty much their families, and those are the only people that they're able to take to and from, or whatever countries or states that they go to. So when looking at the military community and the challenges that they face, it's very specific for each family, and every instance is completely different, and what we try and do is address all those instances. Now, the recreation program here in the Presidio of Monterey consists mostly of volunteer family members. So a lot of the coaches for the soccer season that we're in right now are spouses of soldiers, or they might be grandparents, or used to be military kids themselves. We do offer programs that are low cost or free to military families, especially because they won't be staying for the whole season. And one of the goals pretty much of the CYSS and the recreational department is to pretty much develop these children to kind of a normal lifestyle. They don't get a lot of interaction with kids their age, and so we really want to create organized, positive social interaction with their peers. We know that they're not going to stay here long, and so we want to try and make the best of what we can with the time that we do have with them. Now, there are a lot of challenges in the military community, more than what I can do in this presentation, but the main one that we do have is relocation, and this is the one that really affects children the most. In an interview with Robert Blum, who was talking about military children, he kind of describes it as something of an engagement, a disengagement, and then a re-engagement. And there's a lot of problems with this as far as technicalities, a lot of paperwork dealing with just having to move once a year. We do have problems with enrolling in schools or even enrolling in extracurricular activities if you know that you're not going to be staying there for the whole year. Graduating on time is often a problem just because standards in California might not be the same as standards in Texas or Colorado or New York. But on the other side of the coin, we do also have emotional problems. With an interview with Andy Lipsig, who was a site supervisor in the recreational department, he says a lot of children tend to be very introverted, and they do have a lot of behavioral and attachment issues with their families, and that's because of all the moving around. Families are the only people that really stay with them. They don't have a lot of interaction with kids their age, and so we do see a lot of problems, behaviorally. Military children do have a high tendency to drink and smoke in their teenage years, or experiment with drugs, and then also just the behavioral issues of having those emotional attachments to very, very specific people, not really trusting anyone outside family members. Now, we do have our own challenges here in the Presidio of Monterey. The biggest thing is consistency, and that deals with a lot of the relocation problem that the military community just faces. We do have a high turnover rate for coaches and athletes, just because everyone is moving. In my experience, we've lost about 5 or 6 athletes and 2 coaches, just to the fact that their families have been deployed in different areas. And the problem with that is that to become a volunteer, it does take a lot of persistence. There is a lot of red tape in the military, and a lot of barriers and obstacles to get through. In my experience, I had to do 6 background checks, fingerprinting, references. I had to do an orientation, and then also training with the site supervisor. And so the process for me going in there and wanting to volunteer and actually getting on the ground took anywhere from 1.5 to 2 months, and it's even longer for coaches. And so when you lose a coach in the middle of the season and have to replace them, by the time that you replace the coach, the season is over. And so that creates a lot of problems with trying to train these kids and to teach them soccer and basketball and whatever sport that they decide to participate in. And so one of the biggest problems that we have is just a lack of long-lasting volunteers. The military community thrives on activity, and they love to be active, and they want their children to be active, but they don't have a lot of people to really facilitate those, or really stay long enough to facilitate those. And so having someone to be able to commit for even a year is something that is very valued among them, and they are consistently looking for volunteers all the time. Now, the problem with coming up with solutions to these challenges is that the nature of the job doesn't change. Soldiers are going to be needed for their skills all over the world and all over the country, and so we can't really change the fact that they're going to be moving. But with my interview with Andy Lipsick, he really stressed that what they're trying to do at the recreational department, and even just the Presidio of Monterey, is they're trying to just create an environment of normalcy. They want something that's stable for the child, and so they can interact with people that are like them. They can interact with parents who know what it's like, with children who know what it's like to move from place to place, and be in an educational system where everyone's kind of on a level playing field. No one really has cliques or friends or groups that they've established themselves in, and it really gives them a chance to really interact with people their age. He did make a very good point that pretty much all the children that come through their doors have a special need, and it's very true. They all have their own behavioral issues or attachment issues. A lot of the families are like one-parent families because, if they have a spouse that's deployed for a year, they don't see their other parent, and so what they're just trying to do is create a fun environment and create as much of a normal childhood as they can while they're here. And I do believe that they do a very good job with the resources that they have. Now, that's my presentation. If you do want to volunteer for the U.S. Army, or you have the time to, then a link at the bottom of this reference page will direct you to the CYSS main site. I do highly recommend these military families do need help, and for what they're doing for our country, I do believe that it is a very good goal to have to help the children of these soldiers. So thank you very much, and I will see you in class.